let's talk about prioritizing self-care in your life. Self-care, sometimes we look at kind of the fluff things, but self-care is your base. Also, it's both. It also includes those basic needs we have, and period care, monthly care, hormonal care. If you're dealing with infertility, all those become part of your self-care. So talk to me about your story with self-care and how you've learned about it and it's grown through your life.
I like that theme a lot, Melissa. Yes, we're here. We're going to be talking about one of the most important things ever, which is painful periods are not normal.
Yay!
And of the end of the story, period. I want you to find out what it's like to have a period that you actually look forward to. You might even enjoy while it's happening. Mm-hmm. This is possible. Okay. Now, having said that, I'm from a background in functional medicine and nutrition where I deal a lot in my practice with infertility and like chronic conditions and helping people lose weight for the last time. But I started this journey in functional nutrition at this point, okay? At my own period being awfully, awfully painful. I have this scale of pain. And I wrote it out only when I really figured out how to have pain-free periods. But from 0 to 10, what's pain like? And I was at the 10, okay? And that's when you're like, you're just lost in the pain. You can't take enough painkillers. And of course, there's situations worse than me where it's like every single day, not just your period, like when you have endometriosis, for example. Yeah. But in any case, I was there. And the sad thing was, Melissa, I thought it was normal. Mm. The only thing that clued me in, and this is about 8 years ago, that clued me in that something wasn't right, was that I was depressed enough to be seriously planning out suicide. Wow. That I knew that was not normal, right? Yeah. That's the only thing I could tell. And yet, so I started down this journey. I quit my path where I was going down the philosophy and physics route in post-grad and all that. And I just had to stop because I just wanted to end it all. That wasn't good. That's not normal. Right. So turning it around, stepping in to functional nutrition and medicine, finding help, finding some relief, finding out the solutions that not only got rid of my depression, but also happened to show me what it was possible to have a painless period. Like, wow, what a beautiful gift. But again, I had zero clue and zero expectation that was even going to happen for me ever. I just wanted the depression lifted. Yeah. Okay. And before we keep going, I promise you guys, if any one of you is suffering with depression right now, I promise you that what we talk about today is gonna lift that cloud of depression just as much as it's gonna lift the pain away from your life, whether you're a man or a woman, actually. Yeah. There's like one thing that's very special to women, but the rest of it applies to both sexes. And it's really important to know that what you're seeing right now, if you are depressed, it's not the fire of life, okay? It's the smoke. Yeah. There's something just blocking you, all right?
That's a great metaphor.
Yeah, and having lived through it, it is 100% accurate. I promise you guys. So let's get into it. Self-care. I like that word. The only thing that, and what I haven't told Melissa yet, which is that I've already created a whole document, and it's completely for free. Go to my website, take it, enjoy it. It's going to be free forever. What this document is the 5 ways to a complete painless period. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Every woman on here is going to, your website might get shut down.
That's good. That's supposed to happen. I want this for all women. My practice is so big, I can just give this out, and this is so important. And you guys, we might touch on a few points here today, there's 5 things in that thing. And yes, it's mostly self-care related, but very deeply nourishing, detoxifying, and engages your mind as well.
Yeah.
A very whole body mind approach. And if we don't touch on it all, don't worry.
Yeah, well, and we'll talk about when we get to that emotional, mental health, physical health connection. That would be a great place to dive into that more. So don't worry, there's more to come, folks. But yeah, if your website crashes, I apologize ahead of time, but not really, because everybody's going to be like, please sign me up now. It's too late for me. I'm 54 and they're done that. But it's so good to know this is available.
That's right. It is. It really is. And to be honest, I work with people that are done all the time as well. Yeah. And unfortunately, they tell me all the time either about how terrible their menopause is or was, or perimenopause. And they also tell me about maybe how they had endometriosis, they had complete or partial hysterectomies. Like they've gone through not just the painful periods, but they've also had to go through the surgeries. Yeah. That I'm telling you right now, ladies and gentlemen, it's completely unnecessary. Wow. I've yet to meet one person that had to really take it once we worked together. Wow. If I met them too late, I met them too late. But there's so much of that that's just, here's the thing. Your body is most likely perfectly formed. But like anything that's perfectly formed, like a factory, if you give it only few resources, it can't produce and function perfectly, quote unquote, you know? So that's it. Just think about that. So what we're going to talk about a lot today is here's what to do to nourish yourself, to give yourself your perfect structures, the resources to do their jobs. And I mean the hormones to send the signals, to produce the eggs, to grow the uterus, to shed the uterus, to completely do that process rather than do it part way and then kind of falter and then can try to do it again and then falter. That's where we get a lot of, and same thing with ovaries, right? PCOS. Things are like the egg forms, but not completely, and then tries to complete. It's like, it's a classic case of a factory that doesn't have enough resources. They just can't produce beautiful, whole quality products. And the answer is not to cut up the factory. Okay. The factory is most likely fine. So how about we start there? Let's start with a nourishing piece, which is the first 3 steps in the freebie. Okay. So the 5 steps to pain-free periods, and even maybe pleasurable ones, because you guys know one of my favorite words is orgasmic.
Orgasmic,
okay. We might come back to that. So,
yes, we definitely will visit that at some point.
Good. Okay, first step. Let's make sure you're getting one of the most important macronutrients at a high enough quantity. That is protein. Okay. Protein. If somebody asks you if you're getting enough protein in your everyday, your answer for 99% of people is no. Okay, because it's very, very difficult unless you're paying attention.
Right.
Now, there's a very simple formula I like to use. 1 pound of body weight for 1 gram of protein. So, what's your ideal weight? Okay, let's say it's 140. It depends on your height and everything. There's so many things that go into it. Just pick the ideal range. Aim for that in grams every day. It's okay if you're missing by like 20, 30 grams or so, but you're going to feel such a difference. I can't tell you how quickly people feel it. It takes like days. And then big emotional roller coasters that they see that they feel every month significantly turn down. Like they're a different person within a month, and that's just from adding enough protein. Why is that so powerful? Because protein is you. If you are a house, protein is everything that the house is made out of on the outside, roof to foundation, to windows, to doors, and inside, it's all the fancy stuff that we love. the refrigerator, the home appliances, your entertainment lounge. It's everything. Protein composes everything in your body. And again, if you don't have enough protein, you can't make enough of the essential hormones required to cycle that reproductive system again and again, month to month and month to month again. It's that simple. So that's the first one. Yeah. Nice and easy, right?
Right. Well, before we leave protein, though, I think it's very important that we're talking about it now, because I can tell you, when you get to perimenopause and menopause, that protein piece becomes even more important. And you have to really change the way you're eating and the way you're moving your body, because if you start doing the protein earlier for all of these things, you are going to lessen the impact of your perimenopause menopause journey too, because you're not going to have to be making all these adjustments to your diet, because you've already done it. You're already fueling yourself with that protein. We don't talk about protein enough. So get on it now. Get on it. Where if you're 20, 25, 15, 45, whatever it is, it's not going to just impact you now. It's going to really make a difference later, when you're going into those later phases of what our women's bodies do.
I thank you for saying that. It's really important. And now the first thing a client worries about when I say this and introduce them to them and want them to implement it, the first thing you'll hear is, but I want to lose weight. And here's the thing. Don't worry about it. I've got you. You can lose weight and increase your protein. And in fact, the next two steps of the painless period also involves nourishing your body, taking more in. And when we talk about it, I want you to know you shouldn't worry about it. When you take in nourishment, it doesn't necessarily mean you're taking in more calories. And again, it's not necessarily the case that only calories count, so to speak. There are differences in quality of calories as well. For example, protein, whenever you eat 1 calorie of protein, I believe you only actually absorb 3/4 of it, because a quarter of it goes into just digesting the protein, because it takes so much energy to digest protein. So that's a really good example. If you're worried about that part, don't be. It's actually going to improve that sort of outcome that you want. So relax in that. Keep listening.
Exactly.
It's going to be like, you don't have to get eat chocolates for the protein and get huge if you want, just to feel good. No, you can feel good, look good, etc.
Well, when you're fueling your body properly, all those things are going to fall into place as well. I think that's the other thing we forget about. We have an unhealthy relationship with the word calories and the word weight. And instead, if we just fuel our bodies properly, give it the resources they need, move, and even just what it does for our psyches and how it affects those hormones, everything else is going to fall into place. And you're going to be at that healthy space, feeling good. So that piece too. So 2 and 3. What are 2 and 3? We spent a lot of time on protein, but I'm glad that we did that.
And it is really important. And another huge topic. But let's keep going. So again, just trust me on this. This will improve that outcome if you want that outcome as well. Now the second one. The second one is called rebuild your micronutrients. The third one is called basically rebuild your minerals. So micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. So step 2 is rebuilding the vitamins. Step 3, rebuilding the minerals. Now, in the big scheme of things, for definitions, you've got nutrients, and there's 2 big classes. There's macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients are what you eat day to day: protein, fat, carb, etc., and various combinations thereof. And micronutrients are minerals and vitamins. Now, we've talked about the macronutrient protein.
Right.
And it's one of the most important ones for this particular condition to recover from this. But that is not to say that the other ones aren't important, just to say that. Now, step 3, very exciting. You have number 2 is make sure you're getting your essential vitamins. So that is vitamin A, D, K. Now, there's also E, and those are your fat-soluble vitamins, and they are incredibly powerful to your whole body. I believe they affect hundreds and hundreds of hormonal cycles in your body and energy cycles as well. And all that, whenever anybody says it's affecting your hormone cycles or your energy cycles, it just means it's affecting how quickly you can get things done in your factory and how well they are communicating between the factory lines. Hormones are for communication, and energy is for getting the factory line moving. Okay, now that's all that means. So now we've got some of the essential spark plugs to make sure you got enough energy and communication lines.
Right.
A, D, K. Now, I wrote down exactly what these numbers I'm going to tell you are, so don't worry if you missed them. But I want to tell you at the moment, the quantities matter. The type that I'm going to tell you matters. So the form of the vitamin matters. And don't worry, it's all written down and it's free for life. So don't worry about it.
Yes, you got to keep going back to it. You don't have to memorize it.
Exactly. First one, vitamin D2. Okay. Oh, I misspoke. Sorry. Not D2. It's so important, but you have to get D3. Do you see? You just gotta read. You gotta read this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Even I get it wrong, and I've done it forever. So D3. I want you to get at least 5,000 international units of D3 in your life every day. Now that number is actually just the minimum for most people I work with. For example, for myself, on a regular day, I'm at 10,000. If I need to, sometimes I go to 15,000. But that's, from doing the work, figuring out what I need and what I don't need. So just keep that in mind. Minimum 5,000. Now, next number, vitamin A, you want specifically retinol. Okay. We're not talking about vitamin A from carrots, guys. No, not that one.
Not the same one.
Okay. Retinol. Also 5,000 international units a day. And again, that's like the minimum. I usually end up having people around 10,000, but Okay. So K2 is the next one. Again, it's not necessarily K1, but I really want you to get K2, and I want you to get 250 micrograms of K2. Now, the last part of the second step is that these 3 elements work together synergistically, such that if you take them separately, they will only give you 1 unit of benefit. But if you take them together, it will be 1 + 1 + 1 = 10, not 3. It's so amazing what they do together. So make sure you take them together. Okay. And of course, Melissa, you won't be surprised to know that traditional foods like liver pate or meat and bone cooking has all those ratios of those minerals and vitamins, in it. There, intact already. No thinking required. But most people just don't make liver pate from scratch, from the livers of the cows in their backyard, No. Although that would be amazing. Now, so that's something to know. That's why we get them from supplements, because we just don't have that infrastructure yet of the natural way. But we might. It's really coming around the world. It's really amazing to see. Now, the last thing I just want to mention for this is please take them only with food, not with water.
Okay. I wondered about that.
Yeah. If you take it with water, you're basically cutting it's an oversimplification, but it's a very useful one. You're basically cutting what you're getting in half, because fat digestion and absorption requires lots and lots of acidic juices that are concentrated, okay? And concentrated bile, concentrated enzymes. If you dilute it with water, they just can't grab those vitamins, okay? So
yeah.
There
Okay.
you go. So that's the second one.
Okay.
All right. Now, the third one is much simpler and sweeter. Now, it's just your minerals. And minerals, the most common ones that are deficient in today's populations are most of the ones that are really important as well for periods and maintaining the reproductive cycle. Surprise!
Yeah, I know.
Okay. What are we talking about? Calcium. We're talking about magnesium, iron, iodine, zinc. Those are the most common ones today. And what I like to do is I like to get my clients' minerals from whole beef organ supplements from regeneratively raised cattle that only eat grass their whole life, etc. It's so important. And what we get from that is a whole food product that gets all those concentrated minerals in the right ratios without needing to play that ratio game, that you see. If you go to a store, in a supplement store, and you look at a mineral bottle, turn it around and read it out loud to yourself. And for every mineral that you read out loud to yourself, there are 10 different forms of that mineral.
Yeah.
Like man-made forms, okay? Orotate, piconate, citrate, and
words
we
you
have
don't
no
know how to say.
idea.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and what it is and where it comes from.
Oh.
Yeah.
Even I, after years in this field, still have to look things up all the time. So this is why I go back to whole foods and the most concentrated foods on the planet, which are beef organs. So what do? I just give them things that build their blood and that build their uterus. So both of these, you'll see it in the handout, no problem. It's basically an organ supplement. So powerful. Don't skip this step. Okay? Promise, guys?
Yeah. Because that's how like you pointed out earlier, if the factory is going to keep working efficiently and at 100%, it has to be fueled properly. And the sources of these things matter, so paying attention to that really matters. And I'm so glad we talked about this under the self-care label, because this is taking care of yourself. This is going to give you the fuel that you are to help you feel well and whole and to be able to show up energetically as your authentic self.
Exactly. Nourishing is an act of self-care. Absolutely. And those are the 3 steps. There's 5. And as you notice, 3 of them are about nourishing you. Okay. Yeah. There's a reason for that. And it's because so many women are undernourished, malnourished, chronically malnourished. And I'm talking decades. And there's many reasons, including just having kids and not knowing how to re-nourish your body, including chronic dieting, not knowing how to diet at the same time as making sure you have enough minerals and vitamins. Yeah. There's a way to do that.
Yeah. And I'd love to even just get rid of the word diet, because I think we have such an unhealthy relationship with it. It's basically, how do I fuel my body in a healthy way, and just reframing the relationship with that.
The word fueling, I really appreciate that word as well. And I want to take it, and it's been a whole movement in the past 10, 20 years.
It really has.
Your body. It's beautiful. I love that movement. But I want to go one step deeper. I want to say, yes, fuel, but also nourish. So nourish your body for as well as fuel. But we're on the same
page. I think nourish is that long-term sustainable thing. That fuel is what gives you what you need every day to get up, move, operate in your life. Nourish is sustainable, long-term, foundational, longevity kind of piece, I think, is what I think of when I think of nourish. I want to go into confidently setting boundaries, because within that, I think it's just that understanding, this is how I'm going to care for myself now. This is that you went through your own story of getting to this point where you had to realize, you had to be like, I have to go step in and take control of this narrative here. This is not going well. I need to set up some frameworks for me to allow me to heal and to move into the space that I want to be in. So talk to me about the role that just creating those healthy boundaries around how you were going to care for yourself, the things that you weren't going to do to your body anymore, those kinds of things. How did that play out for you?
I really like the frame of boundary. I like this. The whole themes that you bring up are wonderful.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Thank you.
Of course. And boundaries. That's really cool, because my answer to this is actually really play well into step 4 and 5 on how to get all the way.
Yeah.
And I think I want to start with it is actually number 4. And that is, you set a time for yourself to move. Step 4 is detoxification. So to support your detoxification, find a way to move every day. If you don't take the trash out of your home for a year, how livable would that space be? Look at that face. You guys should see her face right now. I've seen that.
Yes, the metaphors are so spot on, because that's that helps people understand what it is happening inside of us when we don't make space for that.
Exactly. And one of the most important ways that I start people on that journey is, again, because there's many ways to do it, is to have them set aside a set time every day to move every day. And for those days, it doesn't have to be intense and destroy you. But at least 2 to 3 times a week, I want it to make you sweat.
Yeah.
And the sweating part is important.
Yeah.
There you go.
You sweat out the toxins.
That's right. And this requires you to do what? To set boundaries for yourself. You have to take back your time and say, I think I deserve this half an hour a day, or let's say it's an hour. So that's 1/24th of your day every day is 100% yours. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's see if you can hold that boundary for yourself. And the thing is, when you do that, people kind of love it. Some people will push back to see if you're for real. Yeah. But if you stay strong, many will actually be inspired to do the same for themselves in other ways. And some people will do the same, and and some people will feel that inspiration from you, and they won't even know you. Your friend will know what you're doing, and then they'll go to work, and then they'll be talking about how they'll talk to a coworker about how you are taking time for yourself in the morning to exercise, and sweat. Because you've heard about this thing about pain-free periods, etc., right? Yeah. And that coworker who doesn't even know you thinks like, oh my goodness, I just heard something similar the other day. I got to try that. Yeah. That's how it goes. And so set that boundary. And I wish people set this more often, Melissa. If you can't set it for yourself, set it so that other people don't lose out on the opportunity to be inspired by you.
Yes, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we're not only letting ourselves down, we're not showing up well for others and our relationships, our coworkers, our kids, our partners, our best friends, our neighbors, whatever the space may be. But I think too, one of those things that's interesting about this, people get to a certain point with pain where it's like, I'll do anything, just tell me. So sometimes, unfortunately, that can be a great motivator for relief, but also know your value, that you're worth doing this for, that you're worth taking the time for. And how much better you're not only going to feel, but you're right though. It's contagious. And that, we'll talk about that in a minute when we talk about showing up unapologetically for ourselves and each other. It is contagious. But yes, set that time, that boundary, that space that you protect for you. I think that's so beautiful. Okay. So that detoxification, get up and sweat. It actually feels really good. It actually it really does. It's kind of a weird cleansing kind of thing. And I've done a lot of, it really is. And that for me, I feel like I've really done that for me mentally is a good, I feel like I've really done something, to really kind of release some things. For me, just psychologically, it plays a strong role too.
That's what's going on.
Yeah.
Somebody has swept the floor of your factory. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just, everything is easier now. Somebody's opened the windows, and your house hasn't been open for a while. It sucks breathing that air. And then when that gets in there, you're ready to keep working. It is that what you're doing when you move. It is what you're feeling in that moment. And it's biochemically complex with hormones and neurotransmitters and all that fancy stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just you opening a window. Okay. And taking out some trash.
Taking out the trash and letting some fresh air in.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So step 5, you've set the boundary, you've set the toxins. Yeah. What are we doing step 5?
Now, last step. I think the last step might actually incredibly seamlessly move into your last theme that I'm guessing you have. And we'll see. But it's the fact of, it's the last step in the cycle. There's 3 big ones. Nourish, detox, mind. Mind is a very interesting piece in my practice because that's where a lot of the groundbreaking stuff happens. And specifically for this one small piece of mind is called the slow breath. So I want you to practice the slow breath. And as I'll explain what it is in a second, but specifically when you feel the following: rushed. You don't have time to get something done. You have to rush. Okay, number 2, overwhelmed. I have the whole world on my shoulders. Nobody's there to help me. Overwhelmed, okay? 3rd, you're nodding. I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you'll really love this one. Last one. Thought loops. Memory loops.
Oh my gosh.
Something just happened. You can't. Yeah, that's right. And I've spent a lot of time studying male versus female brains and how they work. And what happens when the female brain is stressed, which is slightly different from the men's brain, is that as soon as we have that cortisol pumping through, our brain just shifts gear into a part of our brain, shifts the blood flow into the part of our brain that is all about memory and all those negative collections of big storehouses of things that happened.
Yes.
and you know what I mean. All women know what I mean when I explain those 3 things: rush, overwhelm, memory loops. Okay. Yeah. Now, here's the practice. And this will absolutely blow your mind if you do it. It works so well. Now, whenever you notice that happening, instead of getting stuck in it and being like, oh God, I'm doing it again. Yeah. Okay. Instead of that, just shift right away into the slow breath. What's the slow breath? It's when you slow your breath down from 15 times a minute down to about 5 or 6 times a minute. Most people breathe at around 15 times a minute when they're not aware. And when we're stressed, it's even quicker and even higher number.
Right. It just keeps going. Yeah. And shorter. It's not deep. It's shallow.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we shallow and we hold it and we shallow and all that nastiness. Okay. Now that's a signal, very powerful signal to your nervous system. And doing the opposite is also a very powerful signal to your nervous system, because if you slow it down to 5 or 6 times a minute, your body is like, my goodness, this gal must be having such a good time right now. There's like no one here to eat her. She's not like,
she's not getting chased by the lion.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like, it's so powerful that because you literally, there's nowhere in your evolution where you had the chance to breathe slowly and you were having a prosperous, abundant time. Okay.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That's why it's so powerful. Okay. Now, how do you do that? All you have to do is breathe in for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds. If you do that, that's 6 breaths a minute. Okay. Now, if you want to breathe 5 breaths a minute, slow it down. 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And if you really do this, every time you feel one of those terrible 3, you won't believe how much ease comes into your life. And I want to reiterate one thing to get your butt moving on doing this. Whenever you are in a thought loop, or a rush loop, or an overwhelm loop, there's you are definitively 100% in a stressed mode. Okay?
Yeah.
You can have a problem that you need to solve and feel engaged, focused, creative about the problem. Okay? Or you can feel rushed, overwhelmed, looping on the problem. Hyperventilating too.
Yeah.
So do you want to deal with your problems when you're in a chronically stressed state, or do you want to have that calm, engaged, let's do this? Of course you want just to do this without paying the inflated cost of what it takes to be in a stress state. And I just want to make that one last point because it's such an important metaphor. When you are in a stressed state, think of your factory as needing to be paying 30 times more for all its energy uses, HVAC system, workers' compensation. Every single thing in your factory suddenly costs 30 times more. Okay, that is the price of that's the difference between us today and what we're paying with our dollar versus what we were paying 100 years ago. It's 30 times more the value now. So that's it's inflated cost whenever you are in stressed state. That's why I want you to get your butt into the relaxed state, okay? Yeah. Because if you do follow my steps 1, 2, 5, and you nourish yourself, and you detox for yourself. And then in the end, you stay most of the time in a chronically stressed state. All those previous steps will count for so little because you only have increased it by a tiny bit. Like your resources would have just gone up by a little bit, but you'll still be wasting huge amount on that inflated cost.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's such a good way. Your metaphors are so spot on. Yeah. Because I'm a visual person. That helps me so much. Also, I'm so glad you hit that last point because I'm someone, I'll use myself as an example. I was officially diagnosed with anxiety, dealing with anxiety 4 years ago. This was not a big surprise to anybody in my life. It knew me. And one of the key factors, and I'm still learning how to do this, I am a work in progress on this, but I can do all the things you talked about before, nourish my body properly, move my body properly. If my nervous system is still out of whack, and I'm glad you brought up the breathing because I started doing a thing where I would set an alarm for every hour. I would stop and breathe and reset my nervous system and I use box breathing, but the slow breathing is a great example too. And a little simpler actually kind of to remember to slow things down and reset, because also what you're doing to your body is that inflate the inflammation piece, your cortisol levels spike, your hormones get all out of whack when you're living in that chronic stress state, and all those other things you're doing to feel, they're getting you through the day. but you're not seeing the long-term benefits of it because you're using up so much energy. And I'm still, like I said, it takes time to figure this out. I operated this way for, close to 50 years before I was woken up to the fact like, whoa, wait a minute here. There's a problem. But that piece is so important. Like it cannot be underestimated. And even as you're starting and figuring out the other pieces, start that breathing thing today. You don't have to go do any changes. That in itself. Now you need all the things for the factory to run well, but start there. Like and be intentional about it and pay attention. I can tell you it matters and it makes a difference. But for me, it helps me because I'm not in practice of doing it. It helps me if I set an alarm to remind myself to do it because my natural inclination is just to keep pushing. Oh, I'm almost done. Oh, I can figure this out. Or just 1 more minute, just 5 more minutes, just whatever, half an hour, whatever it is. But if I set that alarm, it alerts me. So that's a practice too, to put that into place if you're figuring that out. But you just laid out beautifully taking care of our emotional health as much as our physical, mental health. You just laid that out perfectly in that so process. Glad to hear that. Yeah, no, that was beautiful. You laid that out, all those connect points, and your story in itself is the fact that you got to a depressive state before you started paying attention, and then through your process realized all those things were connected, those physical symptoms you were feeling. And our body is a system and it's all connected. And unfortunately, in Western medicine, it's dealt with in silos. And we're very reactionary to those silos. And we throw a pill at it, or we throw this at it, or a diet.
Or the knife.
Or a knife or surgery. How many surgeries, how many hysterectomies didn't have to happen? How many just, removing the ovaries? I mean, so many things. And I know so many women that have gone through this, not to mention the pain, the PCOS and the painful periods. I had really achy back, miserable first 36 hours of my period. My whole period life, from the time I started my period until I didn't have it anymore, that was part of my routine. Now, what I had when I was 38 years old is an ablation, which was it was easy in, out, and I didn't have a period. So I didn't bleed again because of that. And it worked. It was very effective for me. But what they didn't train me on, what they didn't tell me or train me on was the fact that hormones are still going to do their thing. And so you need to know these things because once you go into perimenopause, and I didn't have that information, but that's a different episode. And people have heard me talk about that. But all those things come into play, but that connection. So you were able to piece those things together. It is connected. It does matter. And so when you are going and talking about your symptoms, think about it that way, present it that way, ask questions in that way. Don't just accept all these separate things. If you're feeling like, wait a minute, there's a pattern, look at your patterns. When one thing started happening, another thing started happening. Look for those connect points, because most likely it's all part of one bigger thing that can be addressed holistically that will address all those things. And that's a really quick way to wrap this up in a bow. But that really that's really it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Mm. I can't agree more. And I talk to people all the time about this all over the world. And I think the most encouraging thing that I see is that people are either, I wish I knew about this 30 years ago, or they're like, tell me everything you know.
Right.
And I've yet to meet a person that's like, nonsense. Women are supposed to suffer everywhere from periods to childbirth, and that's just written, and that's the end of the story. I went through it, so you have to deal with it. And it's like that nasty, resentful stuff. I've never heard of anyone respond that way. And I'd like to leave a message for the guys too. Guys anywhere, young men to men, to boys. You guys have sisters, you have girlfriends, you have spouses, you have daughters. So you guys have a lot of influence here, and you guys belong in this conversation, okay?
Yes.
Because here's something that is beautiful. So many women that I've worked with on this particular issue, and sometimes infertility as well, because they're connected, guys. Surprise.
Yes, they are.
But so many of them have found me because the guy in their life was like, hey, I know I don't know how this feels like, and I don't really know what's normal, but I heard this lady, she's a practitioner in this thing, and she teaches people how this is not normal and like why. And maybe you don't have to miss work every month or feel like crap every month or have to eat this particular fast food every month while you're crying on the couch. I don't know.
Yeah,
like there's so many different variations.
There are. There's all these coping mechanisms, most of them not very healthy, that we do just to try to get through it.
That's right. And you guys matter. So first step, know that you do belong in this conversation and do it smartly. Okay. Number 1, show that you care. Say that, hey, I hate seeing you this way. Honestly, it kills me. Number 2, instead of referring them to a guy, doesn't work, okay?
Yeah.
Refer them to a female practitioner.
Yeah.
When they refer to me, they're like, oh, yeah, she's a woman. Okay. And like, she's gone through it. Like, okay, maybe this is legit. They just need that trail of breadcrumbs that are legitimate. Okay. So go through that route, guys. And you guys, everybody will be happier.
Yes. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. For sure. Because all that moodiness.
They'll thank you.
They will. And what a great way to show love and support and affirmation. Honestly. Yeah. I mean, it really is the best way you can show. Thank you for that. That's so good and so important about guys being involved in these conversations, because it isn't taboo. It's part of the lived experience, and we're all affected and impacted by it. And so let's do this together and be educated and informed about it and support each other in it. I'm so thank you for that. That was so good. So good.
No. It's something that's missing a lot in this conversation when I hear other people talk about it.
Yes.
And it's another big part of when I'm asked to go speak in places. I go to places of workplaces where bosses are like so confused that many of their female subordinates are taking a day off every month. And these are professionals. These are engineers, etc. Like, they need them kind of reliably. And they're so frustrated and they don't know how to start that conversation. So they often ask me to come in and be like, let's start the conversation. I'm here to break the ice. You guys haven't talked about this. The women don't know what's possible, number 1. The men don't know what to say. Yes. And then you're just in this, like, fine, we're just stuck. We're never going to get better kind of mode.
Yeah. And you're coping, but you're not, you're not solving anything. Yeah.
That's right. Like, I give people the tools to deal with that. And it's so easy when somebody from the outside comes in. Yeah. Everything just gets a fat, fresh air. Yeah. And it's so easy, guys. Like, I care.
And it takes the pressure off those other people within that, just come up with the information. Absolutely. No, that's a great idea. And that goes so nicely into supporting ourselves and other women in living unapologetically, but also for men and understanding their role in this. And the impact that they can have when they show up supporting partners, caring about it, not poo-pooing it, wanting to understand it, and showing that empathy and curiosity. And this is really how we do it, by being educated and informed. Yeah, curiosity instead of judgment is going to send you down a better road every time. It took me a long time to learn that and figure that out and adopt that. And I'm still working on making that a habit. But I can tell you from my own experience across the board, curiosity creates the questions, it creates inquiries, it creates a grasping and acknowledging of information and arming yourself with resources. I mean, it just goes down that road. So this is a way.
Can I share something quickly?
Absolutely.
I think you'll love it because you'll love the metaphors.
Yes.
I couldn't agree more because, of course, you've heard curiosity killed the cat.
Yeah.
But satisfaction brought it back.
Oh, yeah.
People don't say the other half. People don't know the other half.
I've never heard the other half before. I will tell you right now, I've never heard that before. Never heard it.
I'm so glad. Okay.
So thank you for that. That's your takeaway today, guys. And that's such a great example of that because when we feel well, you mentioned this earlier, the piece where even if somebody, you go and talk to a coworker about it and they creates the curiosity, they want to know more. They're curious about it. There's not a woman on the planet that doesn't want to know how to have periods without pain, that doesn't want to know how to experience this in a way that's actually gratifying and even just no less just not miserable. There's no woman in the world that doesn't want to not have surgery if she doesn't need it. Doesn't want to have to take a pound of Motrin every month. I mean, there's not a woman in the world that doesn't want to have to do that. So when you offer up these resources, you're vocal about them, but also just how you show up in the world. When you show up feeling well, feeling whole, it makes room. It changes your mood. It changes you're not irritable. It changes how you feel good. You have all the good hormones are, brought to life, the serotonin and the dopamine, because you feel like showing up. And that draws other people in. People like, I want what she's having. Just tell me how to get it. And so this is, for me, when I look at this, how we can support ourselves and other women and living unapologetically, this is what I see through how you live, through how your work impacts people. Do you want to add anything to that?
Oh my goodness. Yes, absolutely. There's one point that I really think is worth every time. Whenever I talk about this has to be said. One thing we're really good at as women is to shift from taking care of ourselves to first everybody else. And therefore, even when somebody like me says, hey, your periods are not supposed to be painful, and here's how to not make them painful. Even at that point, many women are like, but I can just take painkillers and it's fine. Like, why do I even have to worry about this? And here's the thing. Let me just go quickly through the list of what you need to know. Okay. Yeah. First of all, the consequences of ignoring period pain. Let me tell you about it because it's nasty stuff. Okay. Yeah. First of all, popping painkillers is not harmless. Okay. Yeah. Number 1, 2, and 3. Honestly, nobody tells you this. The pharmaceutical drug industry calls non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. What is it like? The beginner painkiller to the big painkiller. I don't know what the word is, but it's like they call it like, it's
like a gateway thing.
That's it. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they call those painkillers because you always get adapted to it. You always need more. Number 1. So that's just when you're playing a losing game already. But let me just tell you specifically why you shouldn't. So we use painkillers for cramp pain, headaches, body aches, but it's no good because over-the-counter pain relievers, they worsen things like leaky gut.
Yes, I'm just going to say the gut health piece.
Yes. Yeah. And everybody knows about gut health these days. It's everywhere online these days and on all the podcasts. And this is one of the most important reasons it's out there. It's because when you take these things, they create food sensitivities. They create immune stimulation environments. They create digestive distress. So don't just think that your painful periods are limited to that pain during that window of that month. Okay. Yeah, it's bigger than that. And let me just quickly go say that leaky gut also affects your brain. So that can show up as fatigue, to brain fog, to headaches. Yeah. Don't mess with these painkillers, okay? One day our society will treat these NSAIDs like cigarettes, okay? Don't take your chances now and become a statistic for future generations.
Yeah, yes. Because I don't think we talk about that enough. We underestimate the impact.
Yeah. And pain. What is pain, guys? Pain is a signal from your body that there is something deeply wrong and needs attention, okay? Whether it's emotional or physical, okay? So what's the cost of ignoring the side effects of taking painkillers? It's easily a few $1,000s in cost just for the pills over decades. Let's say 3 to 4 decades-ish, right? Not including the cost of dealing with chronic conditions, which you will hire people to fix, which is also thousands. And so that's just one. And the same conversation can be had with losing work every day of the month, every year for 30 years to 35 sometimes because of a painful period. Okay. So at the low end of the scale, we're talking about $40,000.
Yeah.
Opportunity cost gone. Your money gone. And if you're earning anything more than very, very basic, it's $200,000. It's significant.
It really is. And then you're talking about your quality of life in terms of, when you want to retire, and all, paying for kids' education. I mean, there's just so many things that go into that. Thank you for that. That is such an important thing to remember is it's not just that momentary thing. Think about those long-term impacts because you will pay for them in some way or another in multiple ways. Thank you for that. That was so good. So good.
The way you rephrased it was really cool. Like, wouldn't you like to have an extra $100,000 in your bank account when you retire? Like, exactly. This is how, so simple. And well said. I love that. Just
the cost of healthcare too. I mean, the healthcare cost. I mean, there's just so many things that play into this that matter when you, and how the way you invest in your body and just your care and being informed. I think that's the biggest thing is and not being reactive, but being proactive because we have been trained to be reactive. We're this quick, want to fix, but don't want to slow down to do it. So we take the quick hit, but the quick hit costs us time, money, health later. So if you aren't paying for it now, you're going to pay for it later. Yeah,
Melissa, I have another metaphor for you that you'll love. It's from The Hobbit, I think.
Oh, I love that. This will be good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, another fan.
We're going back to the
Shire. Shortcuts make long delays.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, let's go into the things that happen later, like after you develop like endometriosis, PCOS. You have to go to surgery of some kind, like temporary surgery, like where they do a little bit, just to remove a little bit, and other bigger surgeries where they remove like big portions of your organs.
Sure,
because obviously you have too many organs. So
that's the problem.
That's the problem.
We weren't perfectly made. Oh my gosh.
So let's just take a few examples. So endometriosis surgery. Let's just take the small ones where they just scrape out a little bit of that extra growth tissue. Okay. That's $3,000 easily and per surgery. And for those small surgeries in particular, you're looking at a regression rate of 60%. That means the person goes right back to where they started in about 2 years.
Wow.
It's awful.
So you're not even solving, you're just like, putting a Band-Aid on it and you'll be back, for a new Band-Aid in 2 years.
In 2 years, that's right. Which is why most people opt for the bigger surgeries because they'll just do one and done, right? So they often go for hysterectomies, partial or complete. And those ones are like $5,000 to $10,000 depending on where you live. And in the US, it's definitely more. But
it's definitely more. And what kind of insurance do you have? Time off from work, time off just from your life, the recovery for these things, not being able to drive, for a certain amount of time while you're healing. if you have a family, I mean, there's so many other things that go into this. When you start lining up the impacts, when you're listening to this today, and you're deciding whether you're going to go to Isabella's website and take a look at this free resource she has, think about all of those things. Like, this might be worth the time. This might be worth looking into.
And it's just, and it's so worth it to know these consequences, because, like, for example, if you do go for the hysterectomy, for example, nobody tells you about the long-term hormonal consequences of it.
Yes.
And there are so many. And even if we don't go down that route, let's just talk about the PMDD. So that's premenstrual dysphoria disorder. That's when the women who feel really crazy when they are in PMS, when they're that 2 week before the cycle starts, they feel like PMS is on steroids. And the biggest, the way to fix that in the medical system, standard medicine right now, is just to give them some sort of mood, drug, steroid type things to help them regulate the emotions. And the thing about those clients is that they have to switch drugs every 3 to 6 months, because they start working and then they stop working.
They build that immunity up to it.
And there's so much unpredictability to that cycle. And you have enough already in your own body to create all the hormones you need, guys.
Yeah.
You just have to nourish, detox, and move. And mind, And other than that, I think it's really worth mentioning 2 more if we can.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Because this is like one of the biggest things in my private practice that I see all the time. And that is number 1, I have a lot of clients that come to me after having done a lot of therapy. Okay. So either because that PMS makes them feel super angry all of a sudden, or crazy, anxious, depressed, a part of every month. And they think it's who they are as a person, and not just the effect that the consequence.
Their whole identity becomes wrapped up into it, instead of understanding this is a behavioral result of things going on in your body.
Exactly. And most of them, when I ask how much money have you spent on therapy, easily $5 to $10K a year. Okay. I love therapy. Okay.
Me too.
This is not what you go to therapy for. Okay.
Right.
You go for other big stuff.
Other traumas that you, or impacts that you couldn't control, that didn't have to do with how you were feeling your body. Yes, exactly.
This you can control, I promise you, okay? And here's the last thing, and talk about being in control. The last thing, which is the hardest, but also the most gratifying to see once we reverse it, it's that those same clients, that go through the therapy, are often also going there because of infertility. And what's the most common thing I see? I see the ladies that are going through that, and sometimes the couples, because it's not only the women all the time. Right. But what I see most of the time is just years of birth control.
Yes. Okay? Yes.
You guys,
and no one tells you when you're 17 the impact that's going to have.
Nobody. I just met a young lady the other day. I was trying to tell her, but what can I do as a practitioner who just came into the store? She's like, I have imbalances of, testosterone. So I was given birth control because she has acne. And it's so hard to just be like, I don't know where to start sometimes, but this is my way of starting. I just try to talk to as many people as I can. And the thing about infertility and miscarriages today is that so many of those clients that I have for that in particular come to me after being on the pill for at least 10 years. And then they go off it, and then they try to have a child right away. And they don't know that it takes the body about 2, maybe 3 years just to recover just that whole cycle again. You've turned off a piece of your factory for 10 years, baby. You think
it's not going to just bounce back. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because I have many friends who went through this 20 years ago when we were having children where they were literally on birth and then they were like feeling like, oh gosh, what's wrong with me? And eventually like, I'm thinking of one friend in particular, and it took her 2.5 years to get pregnant with her first child. And then she had her, and then a couple years later had the second one. It didn't do any, to go back to the pill in between, understood what it was doing to her body, but was really like nervous, like about that. And she ended up okay. She ended up on the okay side, but so many women don't.
And I see that all the time. That timeline, 2 years to 3 years is exactly when their body really starts to be able to complete that life cycle. It's so awful. It's so crushing when you have stillbirths, when you have miscarriages, and
many miscarriages sometimes.
Many. And then also to think that they're like, that the solution is IVF, like tens and thousands of dollars, when your body really can do the job. And it's
and
unnecessary.
The effects that IVF can have later, the increases in cancer rates and those kinds of things that women will even know going in, but will like, it's worth it. I'll take that chance. I'll have the kid. And it's like, God, what is, that you don't, there's a better way, different way, that you don't have to make that sacrifice on yourself. Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, that really goes nicely into, thinking about your why and your values in everything you do. For you, you've learned and understood the value of your body working well and your why behind why you do this work and why you help other women in doing this. When did you know that you were going to go from like, I helped myself, like, oh, I can help other women too? And because that clearly feels like a part of your why and your value story.
Definitely. 100% it was that depression part. Because it's deeper. It's like one of the deepest, darkest things of today. And that is that so many young people, and I was one of them, I realized, are just calling it quits. And it's a small pandemic. It's increasing. And that's why my practice is still general. I take all sorts of people because I realize that all these foundations I'm talking about profoundly change people and get them to their dream health goals, whether it's depression, which is what really, really moves me. And I know I can help people, whether it's the painful periods. And also like every single conversation I have like this with a podcast host about painful periods, we always go into talking about menopause and perimenopause because you guys, that as well is so silly how we treat it, because there's so many cultures around the world that don't even have a word for what we call the symptoms of menopause and perimenopause. There's not even a word for it. No. They seamlessly transition. And I was born in Europe, and that's just what I grew up around. And I'm like, look, that's how it is. And now living in Canada and also being Canadian, I see that crazy, that literally the word crazy is used for those conditions as well. So my answer to your question is, it's all so connected and it goes round and around. And if I can help people realize how to take care of their perfectly formed structures, honestly, then I'll be able to show them how to make their thyroid function again. You know, they don't need that medication, a thyroid medication. The thyroid is just dying for resources to do its job. Or the fibromyalgia and the fatigue people feel and autoimmune conditions. And that's why I'm here. It's why I created that completely free. It's 100%, the 100% solution, guys. Like, I didn't hold anything back. This is what I used for every single lady that comes to me that wants a pain-free period. And it's the complete package, guys. So take it, enjoy it, feel the pain-freeness. And then hopefully, then you can realize what's the next step for you in your life. As in, I want you to go out and live your dreamiest life right now. So there's so many ways in which we're held back when we have these health conditions, and we're holding back from life. And that's why I bring it back to depression. That's why I come back to depression, because I was done with life. I had to make a bargain with myself that I was going to stay and try to figure it out for 5 years. If I couldn't do it in 5 years, fine. Deal over. Like, that was my bargain. And when you're at the bargaining stage, that's serious depression.
It really is.
I want people to know that functional medicine and nutrition saved my life, and it will yours as well. And whatever health condition is keeping you back from living your life, functional medicine and nutrition has amazing answers. And energy work as well, sexual energy work as well, which is why, all of it is so connected. We are such whole, beautiful beings, and big breath. It's one person at a time. This is how I look at it. One person at a time. We will shift just the project, like how our health span is going to look as a whole species. Yeah. And I think I want to say one more thing on this, and that is standard medicine assumes that the span of human life is one that always gets worse. You fall apart. We have to patch you up and drug you up until the very end to make it bearable. Functional medicine assumes the opposite, guys. We assume that we can probably get better over time, at least stay just as good.
Right.
Okay. Maybe even better. And that's like a few days before your death, or like the day of your death. Like, you have these beautiful stories of the old times where there's so many old people that like lived it up all the way to the end. And then a few days before, they're like, they suddenly felt a little more tired. They just wanted to, lay back, and they had this feeling that the end was coming. So they made their wills. They did they closed things up. And the third day later, they went to bed.
They peacefully went to sleep. Yeah.
What if that is the natural state for human beings, guys?
Yeah.
That's what excites me so much, and that's my why. So
I love that. That's so good. And the value of life. It's like not just about the years lived, but the value within those years that is possible that we should all be experiencing. Yes. Thank you. That was so good. And that really goes nicely into living out of your own expectations versus others. You have taken this on and believe this. You don't live by the expectations that we have heard so many times from Western medicine, Western culture, how things are going to be. It's like, no, I have my own expectations for this, and I know what's possible within this. So, and having gone through what you went through, you understand what living by others' expectations within those realms got you to. So it's kind of like, for you, it's just a non-negotiable. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. I really like that word, non-negotiable. Yeah. It's a standard that you set and you follow it. But I like to think of it like this. It's, you set a standard for yourself, no matter how anybody else behaves, because it doesn't matter how they react. What matters is you going to bed at night and knowing that you met that situation at your own standards, and you're proud of that shit. Yeah. And that's what counts. Yes. And the curse word matters, guys. Okay.
Yes. The emphasis.
Yeah. Emphasis. But also, unnecessary things make life fun, like curse words. Yeah,
they do.
And they make it spicy and naughty. And that's why one of my words is orgasmic. And it's
so talk to me about, let's talk. It's expectations place is a nice place. Talk to me about that word. Talk to me more. Say more about
Oh, say more. Let me open up.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, that's definitely living out of her own expectations piece.
This has been a long one for me, and it's all comes from the same practice of knowing yourself and connecting back to your period, and discovering that periods could actually be something you look forward to, even pleasurable. And this is something I got from the amazing work of Kim Anami. She's incredible, ahead of her time. We're so lucky to have her. She's taught me how to harness sexual energy as life force energy. And one of my favorite ways to do this is through her amazing technique of, it's called the MMC. So it's meditate, masturbate, create. Harness that energy into creative energy. And these are ancient practices that have been around for a long time.
Yeah.
They work like insanely. I can't tell you how my practice, my personal life, and my relationship with others has just skyrocketed from me connecting to myself at that deep level. And for women, I'm talking about your actual vagina.
Yes. And we can talk about that and say that. And these things aren't something that there should be, that we have to whisper, or that there's a stigma around. And we were created to experience this. I've had these conversations. We're talking about this more and more on here. And I've had other, my friend, Dr. Fanny Leibel-Langier talks a lot about this, where your sexual health is part of your whole health journey. It is part of your health. It is all part of that. And it needs to be tended to just like the other parts of it too, because as women, we've been told very different narratives about that. And it creates a lot of walls and barriers and shame and fear that keep us from tapping into this whole part of our being.
That's right.
So that's why I wanted you to talk about that piece, and because it is all part of this journey, and it's an essential part. And we're robbing ourselves of it when we don't have the space, the capacity, the freedom, the just owning and being proud of the fact that we can do this too, and and it's okay. My goodness. It's not bad. It's not scary. Yeah, it could be more.
Let me give you a typical prescription of mine. This is after I've been working with people for a while, because it takes some time to warm up to this idea. For
sure. People. It's very hard. I'm still warming up to it. Yeah.
I know. Have an orgasm. Please and thank you. This is a prescription. I know dentists wish that they could say that to their patients.
Yes, I know, because it goes back to the stigma piece.
It relaxes people. It's a nervous system reset. You guys, you don't need a fancy machine to do a nervous system reset, guys, or even a breathing technique. Just have a deep orgasm. And I'm not talking about pump and dump. And
yes.
I want you to have a gourmet experience. I want you to go deep, the cervical, the vagina, the G-spot ones. And for guys, I want you to learn how to last a long time and have whole body orgasms without ejaculating. And this is something that I introduce to people and couples, especially in infertility couples, too, but all my clients, honestly, because after we've done the foundational parts, this really blossoms. Their whole body opens, and then they're capable of things, and they have the energy to pursue things that they once didn't have. They're too tired, exhausted, or just, it takes energy to do that work. And it was the same thing for me. I couldn't get to those places without addressing those foundations first, the nourishment, the detox, the mind piece. My goodness, those three did me real good. And then it's like the crowning jewel. And then you can gather all that life force energy through your sexuality, because your sexual energy is made for you to create life. So it is life force energy. It can create life, or you can channel it to other creative parts of your life. And I'm telling you, it's extremely, extremely beneficial for you to do that. And I'm talking about people earning more money, getting better positions at work, like things that you wouldn't think are connected to being connected to yourself that way. But it's real. And that's why my word is there, orgasmic. And it is something there's always another level to it. Like, sure. So that's why I want to just, that word, you just claim that word and then you keep going and you keep going deeper, and you can do it alone. You can also do it with a partner, guys. You don't need a partner to do this, but it's fun as well with a partner. And I want to also just make sure that we reiterate one thing. This is the most amazing theme that I think goes throughout functional nutrition and my work, is that you have it all. You have it all within yourself to do so much for yourself. You don't even need the fancy supplements to do that whole body reset, or that fancy meditation camp that goes, 40 years of meditation in a few days, You have it all within you to reach those levels all by yourself. And the reason we don't know about it is because it doesn't cost a damn thing.
Exactly. And we do live in a capitalist society.
There you go.
Yeah. And I think for you to also all these untapped energy resources that we don't access because of all the stigmas that exist out there, that are so important to unpack for us to live this fullest, authentic life on our terms that feels the most authentic, healthy, and whole for us too. So that's all part of this. Thank you so much for that. I love that. And you've kind of already addressed these things. You addressed, living out F.E.E.L, finding empowerment, embracing layers. You've talked about how that's not only affected your relationship with yourself, but how it's affected your relationship with others. You've talked about so well all those layers of ourselves and accepting all those parts and those pieces and knowing that we have it all inside us. You've addressed that so beautifully. So it's like I've got so for all of this. So I don't even have to ask you the questions because it's all been so embodied in this conversation today. So thank you for that. Thank you for explaining the layers, explaining the connections, explaining what can be done, explaining how it has affected your relationship with yourself, explaining how it affects your relationship with others. It's so impactful seeing all those connect points. Name 5 activities that nourish you.
Okay. Very specific ones, or like, can they be general?
They can be anything you want.
Okay, anything I want. For sure. I wouldn't go or do anything if I wasn't nourished. I'm talking about like, I know exactly my micros and macros that I need to feel X at this level. I know exactly what that looks like. Okay. Yeah. It's my number one. That really does it for me. And let me see. Something that really nourishes me is any kind of movement. I have around 2 hours in my day because my schedule is sort of, I have clients and then I want to stand up and do stuff. But like, I have about 2 hours every day where I just have movement time, and it's so valuable to me. And I just do all sorts of things. There's no one thing, but it all makes me feel good. Just like you said, you can feel it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Time for play. I'd say that's something I have absolutely every day. And it doesn't have to be something where it's a sexual encounter necessarily. It could also be the most innocent kind of play. You're drawing. But I always put that time every single day for myself to just have something like that. And most of the time it's time with my husband where we just chat, where we spend time together. It's so nourishing. And always brings me down, brings me back in.
Right. At the level. Absolutely. I understand that. And
to have developed the skills and relationship to like ask to be seen for a little bit every day, and him just being able to hold that space for me and just be like, ooh, and and here, let me give you a hug or something. Like they don't even have to judge what I have to say, but it's the most nourishing and relaxing thing ever. And I get that into my women clients' life as much as I can, because it makes a difference.
It does.
Oof. Yeah.
Yes. So good.
Meaningful work, I'd say, is another big one. I can't imagine doing anything else that I'm doing right now.
I can't. You're so naturally. It's so clearly your passion. It so clearly fuels you. I mean, really, it just comes through.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to hear, and I really believe in that. I want to live what I say. I want to practice what I say, you know, and only say what I practice. Okay. I want you to not believe me. I want you to experience what I want you to experience it. And this is how you do it. 1, 2, 3. And that's how you build that belief for yourself.
Yes.
And for a while, I hold that belief for my clients.
Yeah.
Many of them need it. But that's what makes it so meaningful, because at the end, we always connect back and we realize, it's all possible. Because the funniest thing, honestly, Melissa, is most of my clients are like, the one thing they all say, it's so funny. They always say at the end, like, if you were starting over, like, what was holding you back from starting to work with me? I asked them, and they're like, I just thought it sounded too simple. Like, it couldn't be that simple, could it? And I wish I could have told myself back then, just trust yourself and go. It's life changing. And you guys, it's simple. It really is the way. It really can be the simple. I promise you. All of us feel like that if it's too simple, it couldn't be real, right? But again and again, I just have so much evidence to the contrary. So relax already. Maybe it can be. But so it's meaningful work. And I think nourishing me. Yeah. So I mean, I think I'd have to go back to like that or orgasmic connection to yourself. Having that daily time to somehow connect with yourself, whether it's for women, it's your breasts, it's your body, it's your vagina, it's your connection to your partner or yourself. Is the mirror clean between the two of you? You know, or are there pieces of mud on that mirror? It's one of my favorite metaphors from Kimanami that I mentioned earlier, but like that matters. If you don't tell the truth, it puts some mud on that mirror between you, and like that matters. And you won't be able to reach deep levels of ecstasy and all that if you keep mudding up the waters in the mirror. So I'd say that's deeply nourishing to me. It's basically, I want to say orgasmic kind of practices, but I think it's living as truthfully as possible. So that's what it is, because then you can't hide from yourself. And when you can't hide, you have to stand up for yourself. You have to face up, and that only makes you stronger, guys.
And you're authentic
again.
Yep 100%. And it affects you across the board, mentally, emotionally, physically. Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah, it totally does.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. So good.
And not that it doesn't scare you shitless, like when you're doing it. Like,
absolutely. For sure. But it's that going back to that trusting yourself piece that we've been told as women not to do, but that was so important that we get back to and realize that we can and we need to.
Exactly. And I promise you want to.
Yes, you do. Absolutely. Once you go down that road, you won't go back. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so true. So true.
Oh, and that's maybe one example of this is showing women after miscarriages, infertility journeys, they could not only have children of their own from their own bodies and their partner, but also that they could have a orgasmic birthing experience. Like, what? Most people are like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, like every single movie you've ever seen,
Yeah.
I can't watch. It's very difficult for me to watch hospital birth scenes in movies now because it's such
misery.
Misery, and it's not real, guys. And so drop that programming already and join us.
Yeah.
The world is so much more beautiful than what we've been shown.
Yeah.
And taught. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. All those things, all those narratives, the stigmas that we're breaking down. Thank you so much. 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
Okay. Actually, I've actually been doing a lot of thinking about this very question recently. And I really have these words. They're very intentional. And one of them is kind of what I said to you before, but it was in love. It's one of my favorite experiences in the world. And amused. It's also one of my favorite states, and being like annoyingly amused, like people are like, why are you laughing that way?
She's so happy.
Right. Yeah, not that much, but like, letting yourself respond for real. Is amazing. You don't have to be like crazy about it, but in that moment, just let it out.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt anyone. No. So that's something I really care about a lot. Amused, and also that word also has that meaning of like being in the flow, being inspired. It's such a beautiful word to be in the muse. I love that. And
I like that.
Alive. Alive is also one of those things. It really centers you on what matters when you think, what makes me feel alive?
Yeah.
Man, it can be tiny, it can be big, but I really love that. And I think every week I think about my week and I think, where did I feel most alive? And when I list the things out, it's the basics, guys. It's like time with your loved ones, like meaningful time with them, time in nature. Like, this is so classic. Everybody tells you this. It's so cheesy, but like
it's real though. It is real. It is. Yeah.
Meaningful work. Like you've heard it all. But when you really think about it, it's when you're stretching yourself, when you're growing, when you're creating something, that's when you're really captured by life. Yeah. You're like in the midst between chaos and order. You're right down the center and you're like, so your attention is beautifully kept and you're just, you can do it forever. Yeah. What's that work for you guys? Like, so that's what I like. And I think my last one is kind of, it's 2 words. So I'll just say it's like my 4th and the 5th because it's something I heard really like, I heard it for the first time again it's an old word and phrase I've heard again and again, but I heard it for the first time the other day for real. And it's when in wedding ceremonies they start with the speaker in front of the couple says, "Dearly beloved," and they start the speech. And there's something about those 2 words that really caught my attention. Dearly beloved. And that word beloved is something that you see in ancient Persian poetry from Hafiz and Rumi. Yeah. That just makes you want to, I don't know, fly, be alive, and like dance and do nothing but dance for the rest of your life. But like that kind of poetry. And he uses the word, instead of God, he uses and like love and you. All those words, he uses the word beloved. And now when I heard that wedding ceremony moment again, and I heard it, dearly beloved, I just thought it was just so beautiful. A way to be in the world and look at other people and speak to them as if they are your dearly beloved. And same thing for yourself, like beloved. It's as you can see, I can talk about that for a while, but it's a lot
of power in that when you feel that deeply. I mean, even you just talking about it that way, I felt it differently in my own body. Yeah, absolutely. That was so good. Oh, Isabella, this has just been so fantastic. Like I said, we could talk for hours. So many wonderful resources. Thank you so much for the time. And I'll share a funny story when this episode releases. I'm not going to give it away today about how I recorded this episode with Isabella and the comedy behind it. So more of that to come. Watch out this week as we promote this episode as you're listening to it. But IsabellaThor.com is that correct? That's your website. That will be on our resources page on our website, embracingletters.com. That free piece of invaluable information that she's been talking about throughout the episode, that's going to be there. You're going to all have access to it completely free. Thank you again for your time, for your wisdom, for your passion, for your insight today, for your sense of humor, for your willingness to come along on this discussion and ride with me. I so appreciate it. Thank you for how you show up in the world. These resources and knowing what's possible is so powerful. And thank you for making this your life's work and the passion that you feel for it. The difference that you've made for yourself and that you're making for others is really, really life-changing.
Well, from one fellow Lord of the Rings lover to another, it's my pleasure. Seriously.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. All right, audience. Don't take a look at these resources. Take a look at those spaces in your life and know that you're worth the investment, and know that there's things you just don't have to put up with, tolerate. There's a better way. Trust that body. Know what a resource it is. Learn how to fuel it properly. Learn the power in that. The importance of living wholly, completely, authentically, orgasmically. All these things that are possible that we've learned from Isabella today that to know that we can have access to. So take some time to look at it this week. Take good care of yourselves. Thanks for being with us today, and have a great week.